Why, hello there, and welcome to my YouTube channel, and I will be your host, Timely. So, I'm gonna bring you guys another video of Genshin Impact, okay? And I kind of want to make like a little guide on how to use certain characters with certain compositions and whatnot, and things that I'm finding out, and maybe it'll help you guys out in the future too. So, I want to showcase mainly my daddy Diluc, okay, the best Claymore user in the game, my favorite, and also a handsome husbando, okay, and very good with animals, it appears. Okay, so let's talk about Daddy Diluc. Let's talk about his skills really quick. We're gonna take a brief look at his skills. Let's see what he's got cooking. Okay. Alright, so he's got his normal attacks, of course, just like any other Claymore user, but what makes him special, in my opinion, is that he has this Searing Onslaught ability where he can use it 3 times and whatnot, and if he doesn't use it again, it enters a short cooldown and whatnot. So, in my opinion, this actual elemental skill is actually very easy to combo with elemental reactions, okay? So, in my opinion, the build that I'm going for is an elemental reaction build centered around either Vaporize or Melt, okay? And it's going to be centered around his Searing Onslaught. Now, if we look at his stats really quick, I'm going to have his Elemental Mastery a little bit higher so that his Vaporize and Melt multiplier is a little bit stronger, okay? I'm not really sure how this works. Higher character's Elemental Mastery, the stronger elemental energy that can be released increases damage caused by Vaporize and Melt by 20%. So I'm not sure. So like Melt and Vaporize, depending on how what order you do it in. So like if they are Kairoed, and then you melt them, it does times 2 damage, but if they're pyroed and you Kyro them, it does 1.5 damage. So always keep that in mind when you're doing elemental reactions. Same thing with Vaporize. If they are wet with water status, wet status, if you pyro them, it does 1.5 times damage, but if they are pyroed out and then you hit them with hydro attacks, it does times 2 damage. So always keep that in mind when you're setting up elemental reactions and whatnot, okay? So I'm not really sure how this multiplier, does it add on top of that times 2 multiplier, or is it separate? So it does the times 2 multiplier and then it boosts that damage by 20%. So I'm not really sure, but having this at a very high multiplier, in my opinion, is very useful, especially if you crit as well to get that crit damage in there, and you start stacking multipliers and whatnot. So now you guys know I'm stacking my elemental mastery, my attack, and a little bit of my crit at 28% to have that nice little 1 in 4 chance to crit. So now we go look at my artifacts set here. My set bonus is I'm using the instructor set for that nice elemental mastery, and the instructor after using elemental skill increases all party members elemental mastery by 120 for 8 seconds. So I really like that because you know, that would be good for Official's Bird, and it's also good because he uses his elemental skill multiple times. So after his first elemental skill, his next 2 elemental skills will be much stronger, in my opinion. So that's why I have that set up right now. Until I find something better, we'll see, we'll see. Okay. Now that we know his artifact set and kind of the build that I'm going for him, let's talk about the team composition really quick. I like to combo him with Chong Yun because Chong Yun has a very nice talent where he could drop a frost field on the floor for 10 seconds that changes everybody's normal attacks to ice, and this only applies to claymores, spears, and sword users, so keep that in mind. So I usually set up my frozen field, okay. Then I switch to my Diluc, and then I start using normal attacks to Kyro them, and then um it, melting them with my Pyro Elemental skill. Now keep in mind, you're always going to want to Kyro them first. Make sure your enemy's Kyroed, and then you use your Elemental skill to cancel out the Kyro, okay, and then it goes away. Alright, it dissipates after you do the elemental trigger and whatnot. So always keep that in mind to apply the Kyro first so you can get the better damage multiplier, or else you're not going to be triggering the elemental reaction on your elemental skill, you'll be triggering the elemental reaction on your normal attack. Okay? Now it's up to you. Maybe you want to trigger the elemental reactions on your normal attack and then you want to pyro them, but in my case, I like to I think it's more organized and more easier to set up elemental reactions focused around his elemental skill. Alright, so one other thing that I like about this is the field duration is 10 seconds, so right when you pop it, it goes into a 10-second cooldown, and then, you know, while it's on cooldown, the field is still up, and you have a 15-second cooldown. So when the field runs out, there's still 5 seconds of, 5 seconds you have to wait so you can set up your field again. So you can switch back and forth very easily between Chongyun and Diluc. So you can make use of his elemental field and always have like a constant flow instead of like waiting and waiting and waiting for his elemental skill to come back. Okay, kind of like where Fischl, where you put up her elemental bird, and then when the bird's gone, it enters cooldown, and then you have to wait. So that's why I really like Chongyun. It's very easy to set up elemental reactions. Okay. Now, since this part, if you don't want to use Chongyun, there's other ways you can set it up too. You can always go the Vaporize route, a little bit less DPS, but you can still go for it. Um, One of the talents that Barbara has that I like, in my opinion, is Let the Show Begin. Especially for a melee user, what it does is it go all the way down, applies wet status to the character and enemies who come in contact with them. So you could use this while Diluc is dying, you switch to her, and then put up the Let the Show Begin, switch back to Diluc, and he'll be healing, and you can still be on the offensive, okay? So you don't have to really change your playing style while you're healing. And that's why I really like Barbara, is that you could stay aggressive in really tight situations, okay? And you can still have like an elemental reaction set up by using doing Vaporize, okay? Now it's going to be a little bit weaker, but hey, it's still nice and it still works and it keeps the flow going, in my opinion, okay? Now, my next slot that I put in, I actually put in my Fischl because this is a very melee-oriented team, so I needed somebody that could cover the ranged, the flying enemies, okay? So I put in my Fischl so she can drop her bird down, Oz, and then little turret, and then she can just snipe away, or she can drop Oz down and you can switch to Diluc and go for an overload kind of setup, or you can switch to Chongyun to go for a super conduct setup. It's really up to you and how you want to use Fischl. She's very viable in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm using her for. Now keep in mind when you're trying to set up elemental reactions, and I know a lot of people like to go back here and then like they put like, I don't know, Zingling down here, okay, and then they have Fischl and they'll put the Gooba down, whatever that thing's called. What was it, Gooba? Yeah, Gooba, Guoba, Guoba. She'll put her Gooba down, okay, and then Fischl will put Oz down, and then you can switch to your main DPS and do damage. The only thing is that you can't really focus on what elemental reaction you're going to get, so you're not. There's a chance that you might not trigger the melt on the melt or the vaporize or whatever you're trying to go for on your Diluc, because you might trigger the overload, or you might trigger something else entirely. So you always have to watch out for that. Is that sometimes the more elements you have going on at once, the harder it is to trigger the elemental reaction you want for his elemental skill to actually optimize his damage output. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. Let's go back. Alright, we're going to put Chongyun back in, and we're going to actually fight, and I'm going to show you guys the rotation really quick with Chongyun and Diluc. We're not going to be a little too fancy. This is going to be really basic stuff, okay? So, this is probably like one of my favorite setups to use. I see an archer up there. I want to kill that archer first, and we're going to use that big guy as a sponge. Oh, nope, leave me alone. Oh, come on, go up the ladder. Oh, hello there. Bye-bye. Alright, so first what I like to do is I like to go Chong Yun, then switch elemental attack, and then you apply it again, elemental attack, then you apply it again, elemental attack, then you apply it again, and then heat, melt, like that, okay? In succession. Always make sure you get your Kyro up. You can make it quicker if you want. You could go like you can go like Kyro, switch, L oh fuck. Come back here. He messed me up because he like charged into me. Oops. Let's try that again. So you could always make it quicker if you want. I think he's going for another charge. Alright, so boom, boom, boom. Dang it. But yeah, like always, keep in mind that you have to look at the statuses they have. So sometimes you have to hit them a couple times for the Kyro to actually be applied. Because what Melt and Vaporize does is once the elemental reaction happens, their status effect goes away. So you have to reapply the status effect before you do the next elemental reaction. Okay, so I hope that was a good example on how keeping that elemental reaction up and active, or keeping that status effect up and active to actually trigger an elemental reaction. All right. So yeah, guys, that's how I'm using my Diluc right now. It's very basic and simple, and if you ever get Diluc, I think it's really easy to get Chong Yun, and I think they can be like best buddies if you use them right. So yeah, I think that's everything. Maybe I might do other characters in the future. I definitely do have a a Mona that I want to start using, but I'm trying to figure out the right team for her. So we'll see. We'll find out eventually. So yeah, I have to get going now.